When it comes to practical prints, there's almost nothing more fun than 3D printing planters. Adding a plant to your space can really liven up any room. And the best part about 3D printing planters is that you could customize them however you want. You could add whatever features you want, print them in any color, and in any size. But how does the cost compare to buying a planter at the store? You could buy a ceramic planter at the store for around $10 to $50 USD. Except these are all pretty big and heavy for indoor use, especially if you have a small space. On the other hand, 3D printed planters are much lighter, smaller, and can be customized infinitely. So how much does it cost to 3D print a planter? Here I have a 5-inch planter, a drip tray, and a wall mount. The planter, drip tray, and wall mount all can be printed in about 7 hours for around $6 in material. So you can see that 3D printing yourself a planter is actually a pretty good deal. Of course, this is assuming that you've already purchased a 3D printer, which can be relatively expensive. Of course, cost isn't the only factor, there is the enjoyment of the hobby as well. And it's just really satisfying to create your own creations with a 3D printer. But what if you did want to try and offset the cost of a 3D printer? A lot of people can make a decent side income or even a main income by selling 3D printed objects on Etsy. While the competition is tough, if you do have a little bit of talent and you work really hard, you can make a decent amount of income. For example, my Etsy store last year made $2,600. And while that's not very much income, I barely put any effort into the store. But the financial side of 3D printing is definitely not for everyone, and there are definitely no guarantees. I just happen to enjoy it. 3D printing planters is also just a really cool way to express your creativity. For example, this wall hanging design isn't inherently new, I did add my own twist to it. So this bottom tray just simply twists out like so, and you can mount it onto the wall. And as you can tell, there are a ton of existing wall-mounted planters, but I did add another twist to my design. So here you can see my custom designed mounting piece. The planter easily slides in like so. But what's special about my design versus other designs? Well, I believe mine is more versatile. You see, I added these countersunk holes where you could put in some basic screws to mount them to your wall. This is great if you don't mind putting holes into your wall and you really want to have a secure connection. But what if you don't want to permanently attach this to your wall? We could easily use a command strip over the holes like this. And this version is actually the old version of my wall mount. The new design is slightly recessed like this. That way the command strip fits inside of it and the wall mount sits perfectly flush on your wall. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, isn't designing things in CAD really difficult and doesn't it take a long time? And while it does take some practice, I did my best to try to make it as easy as possible for you by creating some free tutorials on my 3D Printer Academy Tutorials YouTube channel. I have a bunch of free resources on my 3D Printer Academy tutorial channel as well as my website 3dprinteracademy.com. So I designed all of my planters using Fusion 360. In my opinion, it's the easiest CAD software to use. And I have a video right here, Fusion 360 Beginner's Guide, which I think is highly underrated and has everything you basically need to know. And now is a better time than ever to get into 3D printing if you haven't already, especially now that 3D printers are so much easier to use and so much quicker and more reliable. My favorite 3D printer is the Bamboo Lab P1S. I believe it's the best value 3D printer you could get. And I've gone through a lot of 3D printers. Here you can see my 3D printer graveyard. Now, these printers aren't horrible, but the Bamboo Lab printers are so much better, but they do cost a little bit more. So I hope I was able to convince you how cool it is to be able to 3D print your own things at home. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to check out my main YouTube channel, 3D Printer Academy, where I showcase really cool engineering things, do some experiments, and more. I also have this Practical Prints channel where I showcase exclusively practical prints, and my tutorial channel where I show you how to design and 3D print whatever you want. My name's Steven, thanks for watching and happy printing.